Censor Magistrate Velroth had served at Outpost Carrick's 9 for 37 cycles, and in all that time, nothing unexpected had ever happened. The outpost floated at the edge of Dominion space like a silent guardian, its sensors reaching out into the dark void between stars. Every ship that passed through this sector was identified, cataloged, and logged within 3 seconds. The Therix Dominion's database contained information on every known species, every vessel design, every engine signature in the galaxy. Or so they believed. Velroth's 4 eyes scanned the holographic displays with practiced ease. His scaled fingers moved across the control surface, adjusting sensor ranges out of habit more than necessity. The systems ran themselves. He was there simply because regulations required a living being to monitor the automated processes. It was boring work, but it paid well and kept him far from the political games of the inner worlds. The first anomaly appeared at 347 station time. A brief flicker on the long-range sensors, gone so quickly that Velroth almost missed it. He frowned, his secondary eyelids blinking in sequence. Probably a solar flare from the nearby red dwarf, or perhaps a small asteroid tumbling through space. He made a note in the log and continued his routine checks. 10 minutes later, it happened again. This time, the signature lasted 3 full seconds before vanishing. Velroth sat up straighter in his chair, his tail curling with interest. The sensor return showed something moving, something with mass and velocity, but the computer couldn't classify it. That shouldn't be possible. The Dominion's identification systems were perfect. They had to be. The entire Empire's security depended on knowing what moved through their space. He ran a diagnostic on the sensor array. All systems showed green. No malfunctions, no errors, no external interference. Velroth's scaled brow ridges drew together in confusion. He expanded the search parameters and increased sensor sensitivity to maximum. For several minutes, nothing appeared. Then, suddenly, there it was again. This time, the computer managed to hold the lock for almost 30 seconds. Velroth stared at the data streaming across his screens, and a cold feeling settled in his stomach. The object was moving fast. Too fast. Faster than any ship he'd ever seen. The velocity readings climbed higher with each passing second, numbers that made no sense. Speeds that should require exotic matter and energy outputs. That would light up his sensors like a supernova, but there was almost no energy signature. Just a faint whisper of something that didn't match any known propulsion system. No ion trails, no fusion reactions, no antimatter signatures, no warp field distortions. Nothing that should be capable of moving a ship even a fraction that fast. Velroth's claws clicked against the console as he initiated a database search. He entered every parameter the sensors had captured: approximate mass, velocity, trajectory, energy signature, hull composition estimates. The computer processed the request. Searching through records of trillions of vessels from thousands of species across dozens of galactic sectors, the result came back in less than a second. Nitrogen monoxide match found. Velroth felt his heart rate increase. In 37 cycles, he had never seen those words. Never. He ran the search again. This time expanding it to include experimental craft, theoretical designs, and even vessels from restricted military files he technically wasn't supposed to access. Again, nitrogen monoxide match found. The object appeared on his sensors once more, and this time it stayed. Velroth could track it now, watching as it moved deeper into Dominion space. Its path was straight and purposeful, not the wandering trajectory of a derelict or the cautious approach of a lost vessel. This thing knew where it was going. He activated the standard greeting protocol, broadcasting on all known frequencies in the 18 most common galactic languages. Unknown vessel, you are entering Therix Dominion space. Please identify yourself and state your purpose. Failure to comply will result in interception by military forces. No response. The vessel continued on its course, unchanging, unwavering. Velroth broadcast the message again and again. Still nothing. Either they couldn't hear him, couldn't understand him, or were choosing to ignore him. None of those options were good. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for the emergency communication panel. This was serious. This was beyond his authority to handle. He opened a direct channel to Fleet Command on the inner world of Theraxis Prime. "This is Outpost Carax 9 reporting Code Amber situation," Velroth said, keeping his voice steady. "Unknown vessel detected entering Dominion space. No database match. No response to hails. Vessel displaying unusual speed and energy characteristics." There was a pause on the other end. Code Amber situations were rare. They indicated potential threats that couldn't be immediately classified or dealt with through standard procedures. "Outpost Carax 9? Clarifying no database match," came the response from a female voice. "Do you mean no exact match or no match at all?" "No match at all, Command. I've run the signature against every file we have, including restricted military databases. The computer returns nothing. And Command, the speed readings are beyond anything I've ever seen." Another pause, longer this time. "Send us all sensor data immediately. Maintain tracking. Do not attempt interception. We're escalating this to Battlefleet." Velroth transmitted the data package and watched the unknown vessel continue its journey across his screens. He could see now that its trajectory would take it deep into Dominion territory, past the outer colonies toward the more populated inner sectors. Whatever this thing was, it had to be stopped or identified before it got that far. Within the hour, Fleet Command had assembled an emergency response team. The vessel's existence was now known to the highest levels of Dominion authority. Velroth received orders to maintain continuous tracking and provide real-time updates every 10 minutes. He watched the vessel on his screens, this impossible thing that shouldn't exist. It moved through space with a grace and speed that made the Dominion's best ships look like lumbering cargo haulers. Occasionally it would vanish from his sensors completely, only to reappear minutes later in a position it couldn't possibly have reached in that time. The Dominion had ruled this sector of the galaxy for over 3,000 cycles. They had conquered or absorbed dozens of species, crushed rebellions, and enforced order across hundreds of worlds. Their technology was superior, their military unmatched, their intelligence networks complete. They knew everything that moved in their space. Except this. This unknown vessel that appeared from nowhere, carried no identification, responded to no hails, and moved with impossible speed. This thing that their computers couldn't recognize and their weapons hadn't yet tried to stop. Velroth continued broadcasting warnings, knowing they were useless but following protocol anyway. "Unknown vessel, you are in violation of Dominion space. Alter your course immediately or you will be intercepted with force." The vessel didn't slow down. It didn't change course. It simply continued forward, as if the entire Therax Dominion and all its might meant nothing at all. And perhaps, Velroth thought with growing unease, that was exactly the message it was sending. Battle Commander Zara received the alert while inspecting the weapons array of her flagship, the Talon of Supremacy. The message came directly from Fleet Command, marked with the highest priority designation she'd seen in her 20-year career. Unknown vessel. No identification. Possible hostile intent. Intercept and neutralize if necessary. She strode to the bridge with quick, purposeful steps, her command staff falling in behind her. Zara had earned her position through countless battles, putting down rebellions and crushing pirates who dared challenge Dominion authority. Her ship was the pride of the fleet, equipped with weapons that could crack a planet's crust, and shields that could withstand anything the galaxy could throw at them. "All stations. Combat readiness," Zara ordered as she settled into the command chair. "Navigation, plot and intercept course with the unknown vessel. Weapons, charge all primary batteries. I want maximum sensor focus on our target." Her tactical officer, a young male named Kreth, brought up the tracking data on the main display. Zara studied the information with growing disbelief. The velocity numbers couldn't be right. Nothing moved that fast. Not even the experimental scout ships the Dominion had been developing could approach those speeds. "Confirm these readings," she said sharply. "Confirmed, Commander," Kreth replied. "Multiple outposts have been tracking it. The data is accurate. Then match its course and speed. I want to intercept within the hour." The helmsman's fingers danced over his console. Commander, we cannot match that speed. Our maximum velocity is less than half what that vessel is maintaining. Zara's jaw tightened. Then get us as close as you can. Use everything we have. The Talon of Supremacy surged forward, its massive engines pushing it faster than it had ever traveled in normal space. The crew worked with practiced efficiency, but Zara could see the tension on their faces. They were the best, the elite, and they were chasing something that made them look slow. It took 3 hours instead of 1. But they finally achieved sensor lock at medium range. The unknown vessel appeared on their screens, and for the first time, Zara could actually see what they were dealing with. It was small. Shockingly small compared to Dominion warships. Sleek and streamlined with no obvious weapon ports or shield generators. Its hull was a dark color that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it difficult to get clear visual readings. The design was unlike anything in the Dominion database. No species they knew built ships that looked like this. Hail them, Zara ordered. All frequencies, all known languages. Her communications officer worked the controls, sending out the standard greeting in multiple formats. Unknown vessel, this is the Dominion warship Talon of Supremacy. You're in restricted space. Identify yourself immediately and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Silence. The vessel continued on its course, not slowing, not deviating even slightly. Send it again, Zara said, and activate the universal distress beacon. If they're lost or damaged, that should get their attention. Still nothing. The small ship moved through space with perfect precision, its trajectory unwavering. Try nonverbal communication, Zara suggested. Mathematical sequences, prime numbers, anything that might establish we're trying to make contact. The communications officer transmitted a series of mathematical proofs and scientific constants. The universal language that all spacefaring species should understand. They waited. And then, finally, a response. It came as an audio transmission. The first proof that the vessel was indeed crewed and listening. But the language was completely unknown. The words meant nothing to Zara or anyone on her bridge. The computer analyzed the sounds, trying to match them to known language patterns, but found no correlation. After the spoken message came something else. A data stream filled with numbers and symbols that the ship's computers recognized as mathematical expressions. Universal constants. The speed of light. The gravitational constant, pi, basic geometry. It was exactly what they'd sent, but formatted differently. As if the unknown vessel was trying to establish common ground. They're attempting first contact protocols, Kreth said, surprise evident in his voice. They want to communicate. Zara leaned forward in her chair. Then why did they ignore our hails? Why enter our space without permission? Before anyone could answer, the unknown vessel did something that made everyone on the bridge gasp. It executed a turn that should have been impossible. A 90-degree change in direction at full speed, the kind of maneuver that should have generated hundreds of gravities of force. Any crew inside should have been crushed into paste. Any ship should have torn itself apart, but the small vessel completed the turn as if it were nothing. As if the laws of physics that governed every other ship in the galaxy simply didn't apply to it. Did you see that? Kreth whispered. The acceleration forces alone should have. I saw it, Zara interrupted. Weapons, can you get a targeting lock? Attempting now, Commander. The Talon of Supremacy's targeting systems were the most advanced in the Dominion fleet. They could track and lock onto objects moving at relativistic speeds. But the unknown vessel was proving difficult. Every time the targeting computer thought it had a lock, the vessel would shift slightly, breaking the connection. It was as if it knew exactly when they were about to achieve lock and move just enough to prevent it. Commander, the sensor officer called out. I'm detecting something unusual. The vessel's energy signature keeps changing. It's like nothing I've ever seen. One moment it's almost invisible, the next it spikes, then it disappears again. Zara watched the tactical display, frustration building. They were supposed to be the hunters, the enforcers of Dominion law, but this small unknown vessel was making them look foolish. the communications officer suddenly spoke up. "Commander, we're receiving another transmission. This one's different." The bridge speakers crackled to life. More of the unknown language, but this time it was followed by images. Visual data showing star charts, diagrams of solar systems, what looked like historical records or databases. The computer worked frantically to analyze and translate. "What are they trying to tell us?" Zara demanded. "I don't know, Commander. The data is too complex to analyze in real time. We'd need days or weeks to properly decode all this." Then the unknown vessel changed course again. This time, its new trajectory was clear and alarming. It was heading directly for the colony world of Praxis the Seventh, home to over 4 billion Dominion citizens. "That's a populated world," Kreth said unnecessarily. "They can't be planning to battle stations," Zara commanded, cutting him off. "Send an emergency alert to Praxis 7 and Fleet Command. Unknown hostile vessel approaching inhabited world. Request immediate reinforcements." The Talon of Supremacy pursued, pushing its engines beyond safe limits. But it wasn't enough. The small vessel was faster, more agile, and seemed to know exactly where it was going. Zara gripped the arms of her command chair. They had tried communication. They had tried warnings. Now, if that vessel threatened the Dominion world, she would have no choice but to destroy it. Even if she had no idea what it was, where it came from, or what it wanted, the unknown vessel continued toward Praxis 7, and behind it, the full might of the Dominion fleet began to mobilize. But deep down, watching that impossible ship move through space with such ease and grace, Zara felt something she hadn't experienced in years: fear. The defense fleet assembled around Praxis 7 like a wall of steel and fury. 20 warships, each one capable of reducing cities to ash, formed a protective sphere around the colony world. Every weapon was armed, every shield at maximum power, every sensor focused on the approaching unknown vessel. The message was clear: come no closer. On the surface of Praxis 7, 4 billion people went about their lives, unaware that their world had become the center of a crisis that could reshape the galaxy. The planetary governor had been briefed but told to maintain calm. No need to cause panic. The Dominion fleet would handle this, just as they handled everything else. Zara stood on the bridge of the Talon of Supremacy, now part of the largest battle group assembled in this sector in 300 years. 20 commanders, 20 crews, all waiting for her order. Fleet Command had given her tactical control of the situation. If the unknown vessel posed a threat, she would be the one to eliminate it. "Status on all vessels," she commanded. "All ships report ready, Commander," Kreth responded. "Weapons charged, shields at full. We have overlapping firing solutions covering every possible approach vector." Zara nodded, though her confidence was less than it should be. She'd seen what that small vessel could do. The maneuvers it could pull, the speeds it could reach. Part of her wondered if 20 ships would be enough. "Unknown vessel now entering defensive perimeter," the sensor officer announced. "Distance, 2 million kilometers and closing." Zara opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Battle Commander Zara. Hold fire until my direct order." "Let's see what it does." The small vessel appeared on their screens, that same dark shape moving with impossible grace. It didn't slow down. It didn't acknowledge their presence. It simply continued forward, heading straight for the planet. "Distance, 1 million kilometers, the sensor officer said, his voice tight with tension. Zara tried one more time. "Unknown vessel, you are approaching a Dominion colony world. You are ordered to stop immediately. This is your final warning. Deviation from your course will result in the use of deadly force." No response. The vessel came closer, 500,000 kilometers. Zara's claws dug into her command chair. Every instinct told her this was wrong, that they were missing something important. But she had her orders. Protect Dominion citizens. Defend Dominion territory. She couldn't let an unknown vessel reach that planet no matter what. "All ships," she said quietly. "Fire!" 20 warships unleashed their fury simultaneously. Particle beams, plasma cannons, missile barrages, energy weapons that could vaporize asteroids. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a moon. It all converged on one small vessel. The space around the unknown ship lit up like a newborn star. Energy readings went off the scale. The sensors were overloaded by the sheer amount of destructive power being unleashed. For a moment, everyone on every bridge held their breath. Surely nothing could survive that. Nothing. Then the light faded and the small vessel emerged, completely unharmed. Impossible, someone whispered on Zara's bridge. Barriers had materialized around the vessel, visible for just microseconds as they absorbed and deflected the attack. Shimmering fields of energy that appeared and vanished so quickly the sensors could barely track them. Every shot, every missile, every beam of destructive energy had been neutralized, and the vessel hadn't fired back. It had simply defended itself and continued forward. "All weapons, continuous fire," Zara ordered, her voice hard. "Don't give it a chance to," the unknown vessel accelerated. It didn't just speed up. It moved faster than should be possible, weaving through the defensive formation like it was standing still. Warships that had taken years to build, crewed by the best soldiers in the fleet, couldn't even track it properly. It slipped between their firing solutions, dancing through space with movements that defied every principle of inertial physics. One of the Dominion captains, an aggressive male named Torvin, decided to take matters into his own hands. His dreadnought, the Eternal Wrath, broke formation and accelerated directly into the unknown vessel's path. If they couldn't shoot it, they'd ram it, force it to stop or be destroyed. "Torvin, get back in formation," Zara shouted into the com. "That's a direct order." But it was too late. The Eternal Wrath positioned itself directly in the unknown vessel's trajectory. Two massive ships on a collision course. One would have to give way. The small vessel didn't slow down. It aimed straight for the dreadnought like an arrow. Zara watched in horror, certain she was about to witness a catastrophic collision. At the last possible instant, the unknown vessel moved. It executed a maneuver that shouldn't exist, passing within meters of the Eternal Wrath's hull. So close that the dreadnought's hull cameras captured clear images of the smaller ship as it flashed past Dot, and in those images, in that brief moment of proximity, they saw inside, through a transparent section of the hull. Visible for just a fraction of a second was a figure. A being in some kind of protective suit sitting at what looked like a control station. And behind that figure, on a wall or screen, was text, writing, symbols that didn't match any language in the Dominion database. The sensor officer was already analyzing the captured images, enhancing them, running them through every recognition program they had. "Commander, I'm getting something." The computer is attempting to parse the visible text. Initial analysis suggests it might be an alphabet or writing system, but nothing matches our records. The unknown vessel completed its impossible dodge and continued forward. It was now past the defensive line, with clear space between it and the planet. "All ships pursue," Zara commanded. "We can't let it reach the surface." But even as she gave the order, she knew it was futile. They couldn't catch it. They couldn't stop it. They'd thrown everything they had at this vessel, and it had brushed them aside like insects. The small ship entered orbit around Praxis 7, moving with perfect precision. It circled the planet once, twice, 3 times, as if scanning or searching for something. The defense fleet scrambled to reposition, but they were too slow, always one step behind Dot, and then, without warning, the unknown vessel stopped. It simply ceased all movement, holding position in a stable orbit above the planet's northern hemisphere. It didn't approach closer. It didn't try to land. It just waited on the bridge of the Talon of Supremacy. Confusion reigned. Why stop now? What was it waiting for? If it wanted to attack the planet, it had already proven nothing could stop it. If it wanted to communicate, why ignore their hails? "Maintain defensive positions," Zara ordered. "All weapons stay locked on target. If it makes any move toward the surface, destroy it." She knew that was an empty threat. They'd already proven they couldn't destroy it. But she had to maintain the appearance of control, had to show her crew and the fleet that they were still in charge of the situation. The unknown vessel floated above Praxis 7, silent and still. The entire Dominion fleet surrounded it, weapons trained, ready to fire again even though they knew it would accomplish nothing. A standoff had developed, with billions of lives hanging in the balance. Zara stared at the small ship on her main display. "What are you?" she thought. "Where did you come from? What do you want?" The vessel offered no answers. It simply waited in the darkness of space, patient and unmovable, as if it had all the time in the galaxy. And perhaps, Zara thought with growing unease, it did. For 3 days nothing changed. The unknown vessel maintained its orbit. The fleet maintained its watch. And on Praxis 7 below, billions of people finally learned they were living under the shadow of something their mighty dominion couldn't identify, couldn't stop, and couldn't understand. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. They just didn't know why yet. The Dominion High Council chamber was a place where the fate of worlds was decided. Carved from a single massive crystal deep beneath the capital city, it glowed with inner light as the most powerful beings in the Empire gathered for an emergency session. Holograms of representatives from distant worlds flickered in their designated positions, while the inner circle sat in physical attendance. For 3 days, the unknown vessel had hung above Praxis the 7th, doing nothing. Just watching, waiting. The fleet remained on high alert, exhausted crews rotating shifts but never truly resting. And in this chamber, the Dominion's leaders argued about what to do next. "We should destroy it," growled High Commander Vaxum, his scarred face twisted with anger. "Our failure to eliminate this threat makes us look weak." "We tried to destroy it," countered Science Director Lithora, her voice cold and precise. 20 warships couldn't scratch its shields. "What do you suggest? Throwing more ships at it until we run out? The longer it sits there, the more our authority erodes," Vaxum insisted. "Every hour that passes, word spreads. An unknown vessel defying the Dominion. Our enemies will see this as a sign of weakness." Councillor Praxt, eldest of the assembly, raised one thin hand for silence. "We must understand what we're dealing with before we can make informed decisions. What have our scientists learned?" Lithara activated a holographic display. Images from the near collision with the Eternal Wrath appeared, enhanced and analyzed. "These are the only clear images we have of the interior. A single pilot or operator wearing what appears to be an advanced protective suit. And here," she zoomed in on the visible text, writing in an unknown alphabet. "Unknown?" Vaxum scoffed. "Impossible. Our databases contain every written language in the explored galaxy." "Nevertheless," Lithara continued, "this matches nothing we have. However, one of our junior xenolinguists has made an interesting discovery." She manipulated the display, bringing up the mathematical sequences the vessel had transmitted. "These aren't just basic proofs and constants. They're a translation key, a method for establishing common ground between species with no shared language." Praxt leaned forward. "Explain." "The unknown vessel sent us mathematics because math is universal. But within those sequences are patterns, structural elements that can be applied to language. One of our linguists, a young male named Karsith, has been working for 72 hours straight on this. He believes he's beginning to understand how their writing system works." "And?" Vaxum demanded impatiently. "And he needs more time. But preliminary results suggest something remarkable. Some of the symbols, when decoded, appear to correlate with languages we do know. Old languages. Dead languages. Species we encountered centuries ago." The chamber fell silent. That was impossible. The Dominion's expansion had brought them into contact with hundreds of species over thousands of years. Many had been absorbed peacefully. Others had resisted and been conquered. Their languages were archived, their histories recorded. But all of them were accounted for. Which languages? Praxt asked quietly. Lithora hesitated. "That's what Karsith is trying to determine. But there's something else. We've analyzed the vessel's trajectory before it reached our space. Working backwards, we can trace its approximate origin point. It came from a region we explored 800 years ago. 800 years. The early days of expansion when the Dominion was aggressive and merciless in its conquest, before they'd learned that it was more efficient to absorb species than to destroy them. That era was not looked upon proudly by modern Dominion society. "Are you suggesting," Counselor Merrick said slowly, "that this vessel is from a species we encountered during the expansion wars?" "I'm suggesting it's a possibility we should investigate." Vaxum slammed his fist on the council table. "Even if that's true, so what? Those species were inferior. They couldn't stand against us. If survivors somehow persisted and built this ship, there's still just one vessel. One ship changes nothing. One ship that survived the combined firepower of 20 warships," Lithar reminded him. "One ship with technology far beyond our own. One ship that moved through our space as if we didn't exist. High Commander, if this one vessel represents the current capabilities of a surviving species, we should be very concerned about what else they might have." That sobering thought settled over the chamber. The Dominion had always been the strongest, the most advanced. They had ruled through superior technology and military might. The idea that someone might have surpassed them was difficult to accept. "Resume with this linguist," Praxt ordered. "Karsith, was it? Give him whatever resources he needs. I want to know what that vessel is trying to tell us." In a small analysis room 3 levels below the council chamber, Karsith stared at screens filled with symbols, equations, and translation matrices. His eyes burned with fatigue and his hands trembled from too much stimulant juice, but he couldn't stop. Not now, not when he was so close. The mathematical key the vessel had sent was brilliant in its simplicity. It established common values, then used those values to create a framework for understanding. Slowly, painfully, Karsith had begun to decode the visible text from the captured images. The first word he cracked made no sense. It appeared to be a name, but not one from any Dominion species. He ran it through historical archives, searching for any mention. Nothing. The second word was easier. It was a verb, an action. Search, or seek, or possibly find. The third word took another 6 hours, but when he finally decoded it, his blood ran cold. Descendants. Karsith sat back in his chair, his mind racing. The vessel was searching for descendants. But descendants of whom? He dove back into the archives, this time focusing on the region of space the vessel had come from. 800 years ago, what had happened there? The records were sparse. That era of expansion hadn't been well documented by modern standards, but he found references to several engagements, battles, conquests, and one mention of a species that had resisted particularly fiercely. A species whose colony worlds had been destroyed when they refused to surrender. A species whose survivors had been scattered, absorbed into Dominion society or left to drift in space on damaged ships. Fleeing into the unknown. The name of that species was barely mentioned, treated as unimportant. But Karsith found it in a footnote of a military report. Human. He pulled up everything he could find on humans. There wasn't much. They had been a young species, relatively new to space travel when the Dominion encountered them. They had a few colony worlds in that distant region. They had fought hard but lacked the technology to resist effectively. The Dominion had crushed them, taken what they wanted, and moved on. Standard procedure for that time, but here's what interested Karsith. The Dominion had taken prisoners. Some humans had been transported to other worlds as labor or subjects of study. Over 800 years, those humans would have had descendants. Generations of them living on Dominion worlds. Their origins forgotten or erased. Karsith's hands flew over his console, accessing genetic databases. He searched for markers that might indicate human ancestry. The computer processed billions of records from thousands of worlds. When the results came back, he had to read them 3 times to believe them. Praxis 7, the world the vessel had stopped at. The world it now hung above. The genetic database showed thousands of individuals with markers that didn't quite match any known Dominion species. Anomalies that had been noted but never explained. Variations that seemed out of place. What if those variations were human? What if, 800 years ago, When the Dominion conquered human space, some of those scattered survivors had ended up on Praxis 7? What if they'd mixed with local populations, had children, had families, and over generations, their human heritage had become diluted but never quite disappeared? The vessel wasn't here to attack. It wasn't scouting for an invasion. It was searching for lost kin, for descendants of humans who'd been taken from their worlds. 800 years ago, Karsith activated his communicator with shaking hands. Science Director Lithara, I need to speak with the High Council immediately. I've decoded the message. Within the hour, his findings were presented to the Council. The chamber erupted in debate. Some refused to believe it. Others demanded verification. But the evidence was there, undeniable. This changes everything, Prax said quietly. If this vessel came looking for descendants, then they know we're here. They know what we did. And they'd been waiting, watching, growing stronger for 8 centuries. How many more ships do they have? Someone asked. If they could build one like this, they could build a fleet. No one had an answer, but everyone understood the implications. The Dominion had thought themselves the apex of the galaxy, unchallenged and unchallengeable. Now they faced the possibility that somewhere out there, a species they tried to destroy had not only survived, but had surpassed them, and that species remembered. The debate in the High Council chamber had raged for hours. Some wanted to maintain the blockade indefinitely. Others proposed attempting to destroy the vessel with more powerful weapons, perhaps nuclear devices or antimatter warheads. A few suggested negotiation. Though they had no idea how to begin, Zara watched the proceedings through her command console. Still stationed on the Talon of Supremacy in orbit around Praxis 7, the unknown vessel, she now knew to call it remained in its patient orbit, waiting for something. Waiting for permission, perhaps. Or waiting for the Dominion to make the next move. Commander, Kreth said quietly, I've been thinking. If they came here looking for descendants, for lost family, then they're not our enemies. They're just trying to find their people. They entered our space without permission, Zara replied, though her voice lacked conviction. They ignored our hails, resisted our attempts at interception. They also didn't fire back when we attacked them. They could have destroyed every ship in this fleet, but they just defended themselves. That has to mean something. Zara had thought the same thing many times over the past 3 days. She'd commanded warships for 20 years, fought battles across a dozen systems. She knew the difference between aggressive intent and defensive posture. This vessel had never shown hostility, only determination to reach its destination. Science Director Lithara sent me the full translation, Zara said, pulling up the decoded message on her screen. Would you like to hear it? Kreth nodded, and Zara read aloud. Searching for lost children of Earth, colony worlds destroyed, survivors scattered. We have not forgotten. We will never forget. To any descendants who remain, we are coming. To those who harm them, we are watching. The words hung in the air between them. It wasn't a threat of war. It was a promise. A statement of purpose that had driven this vessel across hundreds of light years, through dangerous space to find people who might not even know they had human ancestry. The last part, Kreth said, about those who harmed them watching. That's for us, isn't it? Yes, I think it is. On Praxis 7 below, Karsith had been sent to the surface with a team of genetic specialists. They were quietly testing individuals who showed the anomalous markers, explaining it as a routine medical survey. Most people had no idea what was really happening. They didn't know that an unknown vessel hung in orbit above them, or that it might be there because of them. One of the tested individuals was a young female named Sareth. She worked in a factory, lived in a small apartment, and had never thought much about where her family came from. When the geneticist told her she had unusual DNA markers, she shrugged and asked if it would cause health problems. No health problems, the lead geneticist assured her. But we need to understand your ancestry. Your genetic code contains elements we don't fully recognize. Sareth had laughed. My great-grandmother used to tell stories about our family. She said we came from somewhere else, long ago. I always thought she was just being dramatic. What kind of stories? She said our ancestors could see more colors than others, that we were taller, weaker in heavy gravity, but adapted better to different environments. She said we came from a place with a yellow sun, not a red one like here. But that was impossible, right? We've always been on Praxis 7. The geneticist had gone very still. Your great-grandmother, is she still alive? No, she died when I was young. But she left journals. Old books written in a language I couldn't read. I kept them because they were hers, but I never knew what they said. Within hours, those journals were in Karsith's hands. The writing was crude, clearly from someone who'd learned the old script by memory, passed down through generations. But it was unmistakably the same alphabet visible in the images of the vessel. And when Karsith applied his translation matrix, the words emerged. They were the memories of a woman 6 generations removed from the original displacement. She wrote about her grandmother's grandmother, who told stories of Earth, of blue skies and green oceans, of a world lost 800 years ago, of ships that fled as their colonies burned, of children taken, scattered among Dominion worlds, told to forget their origins and adapt to survive, but some had remembered. In secret, in whispers, passing the stories down, waiting for a day that most thought would never come. The day when humanity would return, Karsith took his findings directly to the High Council. They're here, he said simply. On Praxis 7, thousands of them. Maybe tens of thousands. Most don't know what they are, but the genetic markers are clear. They're human descendants, and that vessel knows they're here. Counselor Prax looked older than his years. What do you recommend? Let them land, Karsith said. We can't stop them. We can only choose whether to oppose them or work with them. And if we oppose them, if we try to harm those descendants, we'll have made an enemy of a species that can build ships like that one. A species that's had 800 years to grow, to develop, to remember what we did to them. The council chamber erupted again, but this time Prax's voice cut through the chaos. Enough, the young linguist speaks sense. We cannot undo the past. We can only shape the future. But it was Vaxum who spoke what others were thinking. If we allow this, if we acknowledge what happened and let them take those descendants, we admit our guilt. We admit that the expansion wars were wrong. They were wrong, Prax said quietly. We've known that for centuries. We changed our policies because we learned that conquest through force was less effective than integration through cooperation. But we never addressed the damage done in those early years. Perhaps it's time we did. The vote was close, but it passed. The Dominion would allow contact. They would permit the vessel to send a landing party. But it had to be done carefully, officially. Zara received the order and felt a weight lift from her shoulders. No more blockade. No more threats. Just first contact, done properly this time. She opened a channel on all frequencies, including the mathematical protocols the vessel had used. Unknown vessel, human vessel, this is Battle Commander Zara of the Therix Dominion. We have decoded your message. We understand why you're here. We acknowledge the wrong done to your people 800 years ago. You have permission to land a shuttle on Praxis 7. Coordinates are being transmitted now. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the vessel responded. This time, the message was in perfect Dominion common tongue, as if the computer had been learning their language the entire time it waited. Thank you, Battle Commander. We acknowledge the courage it took to admit past wrongs. We come not for war, but for reunion. We also send coordinates, not for war, but for peace. These are the location of Earth, humanity's home. We invite diplomatic contact. There is much to discuss. The transmission ended with a data package. Star charts showing a region of space far beyond Dominion borders, routes, safe passage corridors, and images of Earth itself, that blue and green world from old journals, alive and thriving. And around it, in orbit and on nearby worlds, the unmistakable signs of a civilization, stations, ships, habitats, millions of people, perhaps billions. Humanity hadn't just survived. They'd flourished on the surface of Praxis 7 in a cleared space outside the capital city, Thousands gathered to watch. Sarah stood in the front row, clutching her great-grandmother's journals, tears streaming down her face. The authorities had explained everything. She and others like her were descended from humans from a lost colony. From people who thought themselves abandoned 800 years ago, the shuttle descended from the vessel above, sleek and graceful. It landed with barely a sound, and a hatch opened. A figure emerged, wearing a protective suit that gleamed in the light of Praxis, the seventh's red sun. The helmet retracted, revealing a face that looked almost like the Dominion species living on this world. But subtly different, human. The pilot walked forward slowly, carefully, making no threatening movements. In their hands they carried a sealed container. When they reached the gathered crowd, they knelt and opened it. Inside were genetic samples, carefully preserved. Tissue samples, blood, DNA from thousands of individuals. The original colonists taken 800 years ago. And next to those samples were data chips containing messages. Recordings from parents to children they'd never see again. Love letters, promises, hopes for the future, and one message that played for everyone to hear, in a voice that crackled with age but spoke with certainty. To our descendants, wherever you are. We were scattered, but we were never broken. We were lost, but we were never forgotten. If you hear this, know that we loved you. Know that we searched for you. Know that humanity never leaves its own behind. We are coming. Wait for us. Sarah collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Around her, others did the same. 800 years of separation, of forced forgetting, of hidden heritage, came pouring out in that moment. They were not orphans. They were not forgotten. Their people had spent centuries looking for them, and they had finally come home. The human pilot spoke, their voice carrying across the crowd. We are here. We found you. And if you wish, we will take you home. Or we will stay and build together. The choice is yours, but you will never be alone again. Above them, the fleet of warships that had tried to stop this moment remained in orbit, weapons cold, threats abandoned.